I understand, and explaining process, I understand and certainly respect your general admonition that you aren't going to talk about ongoing investigations. But I think it might be helpful for folks to understand, if you can, discuss kind of generally what the process is with respect to something like the Special Prosecutor's report. What is the process then that may not be completely visible to Americans, but that they ought to understand, you know, is taking place and is.
You're trying to make it worthwhile for the reporters who came all the way here hoping that I'd fall for that kind of question. But the answer is, you know, I can't generalize about it because the special counsel regulation has only been invoked on a few occasions, and so each one really is somewhat sui generis. But it's important to understand the context, and I don't have time to give you the whole context here, but before this regulation was adopted in 1999, there were special counsels. There just wasn't a regulation that specified how they should operate. And for a couple of decades before the special counsel regulation, there were also what are called independent counsels. Now, most Americans do not know the difference between a special and independent counsel, but to me it's a critical difference. An independent counsel under the federal statute that existed up until 1999, it was a post-Watergate reform, created a prosecutor who was independent of the Department of Justice, was appointed by the judiciary, not accountable to the executive branch. And by 1999, there was a broad agreement among Democrats and Republicans that was not a good idea, that the prosecutorial power should not be vested in somebody who is independent of the executive branch and is accountable only to judges. And so we returned to the traditional model, and they codified it in the special counsel regulations to provide some guidance about what they believe, that is the folks who wrote the regulations in 1999, was the best way to operate. And so we are now operating under those rules, and under those rules, the special counsel is accountable to the Department of Justice. There's a lot of confusion about this. There's no confusion by Bob Mueller or me or the people who are working with us about the accountability of the special counsel. And the responsibilities are set forth in the regulation. We're going to comply with those rules. The question that Suzanne adverts to, which has been a subject of much speculation, is what's the Attorney General going to do? You'll have to ask him that question. But we are, the special counsel regulation actually was put together in a very thoughtful way. And the goal of the special counsel regulation was to ensure that when the Attorney General, the acting Attorney General, believed it was appropriate, that we would establish a process whereby there would be some additional independence. And the structural independence really comes in the fact that a special counsel, if the special counsel proposes to take an action and is overruled by the Attorney General or the acting Attorney General, we're required to report that to the Congress. That's the structural independence provided in the statute. But the special counsel is a subordinate employee who reports to the Attorney General or the acting Attorney General, and who complies with department policies, including the requirement to obtain approval for certain actions, just like an acting United States attorney, for example, would need to do. So I can't answer your question because that's going to be a decision the Attorney General makes as to what to do with whatever information is provided to him. But I can tell you that I think the regulation was appropriately written to ensure that we can be confident that the investigation was conducted in an independent way, and that if that special prosecutor believed something should be done and we prohibited him from doing it, there would be a report about that to Congress at the end. Beyond that, I think Attorney General Barr is going to make the right decision. We can trust him to do that. He has a lot of experience with this. You know, Bill Barr, when he was Attorney General the first go-round, in the course of his 14 months or so, he appointed a couple of special counsels in that era. They were not subject to this regulation, obviously, but I think we can count on him to do the right thing.
Well.